What is going on, guys? My name is Lex. Welcome back to the vlog. Today we are playing a 5-10 session at Seminole Hard Rock, our home casino here in South Florida. But first, I'm going to show you guys what I sometimes do before I play poker. I'll meet you at the table in about 30 seconds. All right, let's go. It is time for some cards. Let's get right into the action here. On the must-move table on a Saturday night, the first hand we pick up is Pocket Kings. There is an under-the-gun limp, and then a very aggressive action player in the cutoff raises to $50. We look down at Pocket Kings in the small blind. We put a 3-bet. We 3-bet big. We make it $250. Folds back to him. He has about $1,300 in his stack. He decides to call. So going here to the flop. First flop of the day here with Pocket Kings. We see a board of 7-5-3 with 2 diamonds. I look back at my hand and I do have the king of diamonds. I decide to check on this board, and I'm going to give you guys some reasons behind that. Reason number 1 is I want to be a balanced player, meaning that when I check, I can have a strong hand or a weak hand. And when I bet, I can have a weak hand or a strong hand. If I only bet whenever I'm strong and I only check whenever I'm weak, my opponents can exploit me pretty easily. This board, a lot of the time, is not going to hit my 3-bet out of the small blind range. It's going to hit my opponent a lot more than me. He can have a lot of 2 pairs and sets. However, I won't be 3-betting 7s, 5s, and 3s out of the small blind. The best hands I can have here are just single pair hands or flush draws. And my third and most important reason for checking back this flop is to get my opponent to blast. He is a very big action player, loves to bet, and I want him to bet and take a stab on this board. If he has something like 8s through jacks, maybe he has a flush draw or total air. If he bets, I may check raise all in. He only has about $1,000 left, or I might just check call and let him blast away on the turn. So I put in the check, and unfortunately, my opponent checks back. The turn is the ace of clubs, and I decide to lead out for $150 on this card. I'm not really sure what I'm doing in this situation. Obviously, my opponent can have some aces, and I can have some aces like ace-queen or ace-king. However, he's going to be checking back on the flop with a lot of ace-high hands like ace-jack, ace-10, or ace-queen. Thinking back, I really don't like a bet on this card. It's really hard to get called by a worse hand. If he had a pair, he would be betting that on the flop. If he had a flush draw or a straight draw, he'd be betting that on the flop. And if he has an ace, he's just going to call me. So when I bet here, he's going to fold all of his trash like king high and queen high, and he's going to call me with an ace, and he doesn't really have any other hands here. But I put in a bet of $150. He calls, so we're going here to the river, which is an offsuit 10. Now I decide to check. Middle position player puts in a bet, $150, same as on the turn, and given the fact that I played this hand so bad already, I'm not going to play it any better now. I got to see it. I make the call for $150, and he shows me ace-9 offsuit, so he got lucky on the turn there, and he got a donkey to pay him off, so not doing too good here our first hand. We go from Pocket Kings all the way up to Pocket Aces here on the button. Cutoff raises to 35. We 3-bet to 125, and he makes a call going here to the flop of Queen 6-8, 2 clubs. Great board for us. He checks to me. I put in a pretty sizable bet here. I bet $200 trying to get called by any queen, any flush draw, or even some straight draws, or maybe even some unbelieving pocket jacks or pocket 10s. Unfortunately, he thinks for about 10 to 15 seconds and folds. So taking down a little pot here with Pocket Aces. Before the next hand, guys, I want to tell you I did a podcast with the Social League podcast. It was super fun, about an hour and a half of content here. We talk about my wrestling career, CrossFit, how I got into poker, how I started a bankroll, how I became a professional, how I started my YouTube channel, and much more. So go check that out. It's in the description below. We are now here at the main game. I have Jack 10 of diamonds. Under the gun limps for 10. I make it $50 before the small blind raises it. He makes it $175. Now the limper calls, so I have a decision. Should I fold or call? Given the fact that I'm about $3,000 deep with the small blind and the limper has about $1,500, I make the call here. I'm in position. I have a suited connector with Jack 10 of diamonds. Going to the flop 3 ways. Comes out 10, 3, 4 with 1 diamond. The small blind player who 3-bet me is very, very tight. He does not 3-bet much, and I put him on ace-queen suited, ace-king, jacks, queens, kings, and aces. So whenever he c-bets of $150 on this board, it's not looking too good, especially when the under-the-gun limper snap calls $150. However, we didn't call a 3-bet to fold top pair, backdoor flush draw, so we put in the call for $150 looking for some improvement here. I think we're going to need a jack, a 10, or maybe a diamond card to help us out. The turn does not help us. It's actually a terrible card. It pairs to 3. It doesn't give us any backdoor equity with a diamond draw, and it gives us now a counterfeit 2 pair if we hit a jack, if he has something like queens, kings, or aces. He continues to bet. He bets $525, and the limper folds, so now the action's back on us. And this is a time where I think I can pretty comfortably fold top pair. The limper only had about $800 remaining, which means if he's betting here, the small blind with like ace, king, it's pretty much suicide whenever the limper only has $800 remaining. So I think for a little bit of time and fold my top pair. Pretty sure it was a good fold. I think he had queens, kings, or aces and had us beat. A couple hands later, we look down at pocket jacks. Under the gun raises 235. The button calls. I decide to squeeze. I make it $200. The under the gun player has about $1,400 or $1,300 in a stack, and he's a pretty tight player. Doesn't open too wide, so it's kind of a close spot whether we should 3-bet pocket jacks from this configuration, but I decide this time I'm going to do it. He thinks for about 30 to 40 seconds and calls 200, and the button folds, so we're going heads up here to the flop. With $445 in the skillet here, the flop comes out 10-6 deuce with 2 spades. So we flop an overpair here. Decent board for us. No overcards like ace, kings, or queens. So I decide to bet. I continue here for $200. Now my opponent thinks for 5 seconds and just jams all in for $1,300. Now we have to figure out what kind of hands would my opponent be doing this with. I think he could have a flush draw here with 2 overcards like ace queen of spades, ace king of spades, king queen of spades, and those hands are actually beating us equity-wise on this board. He has 2 overcards and a flush draw versus our 1 pair. He could also have a hand like pocket tens, which is top set, which is obviously beating us. He could also have a hand like queens or kings, and given the fact that there's no overcard to the board, he decides, screw it, I'm just going to go with it. He's never doing this with just a single pair 10, like jack 10 or queen 10, and obviously he's not doing this with pocket 8s or pocket 9, so given the fact that I named all these hands in my head, some of them I'm drawing basically dead against, and other ones I'm just flipping against, I decide I'm going to give it to him. I'm going to make the tough laydown here with pocket jacks. I believe him. I think he's got a better hand than me, and we make the fold. Not running too great so far, down about $1,000 before picking up pocket 4s. We raised to $50 over a limp. The small blind and the limper call. So going 3 ways to a flop, which comes out pretty amazing for these pocket 4s. It comes out 3-3-4. So we flop a boat here. It checks to us, and obviously I'm going to bet here, but I want to bet pretty small. I put in a $50 bet trying to entice someone to come in with 2 overcards, a pair, gut shots, or even ace high. The small blind takes the bait and calls. The limper folds going to the turn, which is a deuce. It checks to me. I end up betting big here. I bet $225, trying to make it look like I have a hand like ace queen or ace king that I turned a gut shot with now, and I'm trying to put the pressure on all of his 1 pair hands. I'm hoping he hero calls me here with like 8s, 9s, or 7s. If he has a hand like ace 5, which just turned a straight, that'd be great. And if he somehow has a 3, that'd be even better. Maybe he'll even raise on this turn. However, he thinks for about 30 seconds and folds, so no more action here. No more money with our pocket 4s. Flopping a boat. Still stuck about $1,000 here. We look down at a pretty beautiful hand. 2 black kings, cowboys here. Under the gun raises to 30. We 3-bet to $110. He thinks for a while, shows us an ace and folds. That is not what I like to see, sir. You got to be calling there. How am I going to get unstuck? The poker gods must really want us to get our $1,000 back because they're giving us pocket kings again. The same player opens to 30. We 3-bet to $110, and this time he makes the call. So going here to the flop, the board is 8-7-7 with 2 hearts. He checks it over to us. He only has about $400 remaining. So I put out a bet of $100. Would love to see him just go all in here with any pair, any straight draw or flush draw. However, he just makes the call for $100 with only $300 behind. The turn is the deuce of diamonds. He checks it to us. We don't have any other option here. We end up putting out a bet to put him all in, and he snap folds. So taking down a small pot that we needed here with pocket kings. About an hour goes by. We win some small, insignificant pots here. We have a stack of about $3,500. We end up switching seats so we can get a better view of the table, and we get into a pretty crazy hand here. We are playing 5-10-25 mandatory straddle under the gun. There's 3 limps to me. I overlimp king 10 offsuit on the button and the straddler check. So going 5 ways to the flop of king 5-9 with 2 spades. We look back down. We have the 10 of spades. A big action player who limped under the gun now puts out a bet of $125 with my top pair, backdoor straight draw, and flush draw. I make the call for $125 and everybody else folds. I found it pretty interesting that this player limped under the gun. He loves to raise. He's super aggressive and super action. The turn card is the 10 of hearts, giving us top 2 pair now, and he continues to bet. He bets $400. So now I think he might have a hand like pocket aces. He limped under the gun, trying to limp re-raise, but it limped all the way around. Now he's got an overpair, and he decides, I'm going to bet big here. He could also have a suited connecting cards with a flush draw like 7-8 of spades or 8-9 of spades. He could possibly have king 5 or king 9 or even 9-10. So given the fact that I turned top 2 pair, he bets $400. I'm going to raise here. I have about $3,400 behind, and he covers me. So I end up cutting out a pretty sizable raise. I make it $950 here with top 2 pair. Now the action's back on the under the gun player, and to give some context here, he's literally everyone's favorite player, if you know what I mean. He has an unlimited bankroll, loves to play multiple days a week, and will keep rebuying at any time. He now decides he's going to raise it up. He makes it $3,400, basically putting me all in here. Given the fact that I have top 2 pair, this is a dream spot, right? Well, not really. I mean, I'm still super deep with this guy. He could have a straight with queen jack. That's possible. He could have a set like pocket 5s or pocket 9s. I think he would raise pocket 9s pre-flop. I don't think he has pocket 10s or pocket kings. I look back at my stack and I still have about $1,500 or more remaining. Against most players given this action, I would probably hero fold top 2 pair, but there's just no way I can fold to this guy. He could have a hand like king 5, 9-10, king 9, all 2 pairs that we're beating that he'd be doing this with. He could even have aces that he's doing this with, or ace king. He could have a huge straight draw or flush draw. So I put in the money here, not going to fold my top 2 pair against this guy. The pot is now ballooned up over $7,000. A huge pot brewing here. I ask him once or twice. He says one time. The dealer puts out the ace of hearts on the river. Pretty terrible card. I'll let you guys hear the outcome.
Huh?
I have 2 pair.
I have
Yeah, nice hand. Under the gun action player shows pocket 5s for a flop set, and we have top 2 pair that's not going to beat him. We get massively coolered here by this guy. I don't think I can ever fold to him. Like I said, I might be able to hero fold this to some other players, but definitely not him. We end up losing about $3,500 in that pot, so massive loss there. We are now down over about $4,000 in this session, so getting crushed so far. The game has officially been bumped 5, 10, 25 mandatory straddle. Everybody is super deep. This is good for me. Hopefully we can get some of our money back. We're stuck heaps on the night. We need to win some big pots here. In this next hand, we have ace-jack offsuit, raise it up to $75 before a short stack with $275 shoves all in. We make the call here, and we see a flop of ace-jack 3, turn 8, river 4. We show our top 2 pair, and our opponent shows pocket 3s. So he ends up flopping a set on us. We lose another pot here with 2 pair versus a set. About 20 minutes later, we look down at pocket 8s from under the gun +1, raise it to $75. +2 makes the call for $75 with about $1,100 in a stack. And then now, the same player who just doubled up with pocket 3s against us goes all in again for about $525. The action's back on us, and I decide I'm going to isolate this opponent. I raise it up to about $1,500, covering the under the gun +2 player. He ends up pretty quickly folding, so going here, heads up to the flop with about $1,000 in the middle. The best case scenario is my opponent has an underpair like 6s, 7s, or pocket 5s, but he most likely has 2 overcards, so we're probably flipping here for about $1,000. The flop comes out king 7, 7, turn 5, river deuce. I ask him if he has a pair. He shows pocket kings. So he ended up flopping a boat on us and taking down another pot, doubling him up again. Now we are stuck about $5,000. We literally doubled up this guy twice. The chips are not going in the right direction, and to make it even worse, we're picking up the worst cards in the deck. We're literally getting nothing for like over an hour here, folding, not picking up any hands, which is the most tilting thing in the world whenever you're stuck a lot of money. In this hand, the under the gun player raises to $75. The same action player who stacked us earlier. We look down at pocket queens on the button. Hell yes. Time for our revenge. We're going to win a big pot against this guy. I'm thinking about what sizing I want to 3-bet to before the hijack player puts in a 3-bet himself. He makes it $300. The player in the hijack is a super tight knit pro, hardly ever 3-bets, plays about 10% of hands, so this just sucks for us. We're not going to put in a cold 4-bet. We're just going to call here, trying to play in position against the action player and the hijack. The action player under the gun makes the call, so going 3 ways here of a pot around $900. The flop is pretty bad for us, ace 10-5 with 2 clubs, and it gets worse when the under the gun player leads out for $475. Now the hijack player goes into the tank and ends up folding, so we don't have too much of a thought here. I don't think I can call a huge bet here with pocket queens when this guy is leading out, so I end up folding too. Hijack player said he had pocket kings. I told him I had pocket queens, and under the gun player shows ace-9 offsuit for top pair. We are just running super bad this session. We lost a massive pot with 2 pair. Now we just can't seem to win a hand. And then we get queens and our opponent has kings and an ace comes on the board and the other guy has ace-9. I mean, it just can't get any worse here. We're down like about $5,000. Hopefully it turns around. We have about 2 hours left in our session now. Our nemesis on the session, the action player who we never can beat, he raises up to $75. We make the call here with 9-10 offsuit on the button. Super loose play. I would never call anybody else with a hand like this, but I want to play hands in position against this guy, so we're going heads up to the flop of ace-8 deuce. He checks it over to us. Given the fact that he didn't see bet on this board, I'm going to start bluffing. I bet $75, and of course, he snap calls me. The turn card is a 10, so now we make a pair. He checks it over to us. I'm going to start value betting now. I think my 10 is most likely best. I think he has an underpair to the board like 4s, 5s, or 6s. I bet $125 for value here with my 10, and he thinks for about 3 seconds and makes the call. So we're going here to the river with a pretty sizable pot already, which comes out another 10. So we finally make a hand here. We make trips. My plan was that I was going to check back all rivers that didn't improve me to either a 10 or a 9, and now that we hit a 10, we made trips. He checks to us again. We're going to bet big here, trying to look like we missed a draw or just have nothing at all. He loves to call, so I end up tanking for about 30 seconds, Hollywooding a little bit before putting in a bet of $675. He thinks for about 30 seconds and calls. Pays us off here, so we end up winning finally a pot here against our nemesis, the guy that we could never beat. We're still down from him for this session, but at least we got a little bit back from him. Going into the last hand of the night here, the villain in this hand is going to be in the small blind. It folds to him, and he makes the call for $25. The big blind calls, and I have 10-4 offsuit in the straddle. I just check my option. The player in the small blind is a pretty recreational player who doesn't raise much, but he loves to bet big. He'll bet super big with draws, with second pair, third pair, top pair, boats, straights, so you really don't know if he has a strong hand or a weak hand whenever he bets big. Going here to the flop 3 ways with $75 in the middle, it comes out king, 10, 10, rainbow, flopping trips here. That is what I'm talking about. Finally some run good. It checks to us. I put out a $35 bet. The small blind calls and the big blind folds. So going here to the turn, which is the jack of clubs. Now the small blind checks. I bump it up to $75. The small blind immediately snap check raises us to $375. What in the F is going on in this session? We are being put in the weirdest spots. We have trips here. Obviously, there's some hands that beat us like pocket kings, king 10, pocket jacks, or ace queen, but those hands should be raised pre-flop. I don't think I can fold trips here against this guy. He's super crazy, bets big all the time, with it and without it. So I make the call here going to the river, which is the 8 of clubs. Not the best river for us. If he was bluffing with a flush draw, he now got there. He does not stop betting. He slides out 2 stacks of green, betting $1,000 here. Just a weird spot with trip 10s. We're losing to a flush now. We're losing to queen 9, ace queen is a straight, and all full houses. I think for about a minute here, I'm down a lot of money this session. Nothing seems to be going right. Should I just pay this one off? Maybe he deserves it. Maybe he's bluffing here. I just look at him and he looks super comfortable. I don't think he's ever bluffing for $1,000. So I end up putting in the fold after tanking for about a minute. I later then heard he had pocket kings, so he flopped a boat against us while we had trips. I mean, we're just getting cooler left and right here, running bad, not winning any pots. I can't take it anymore. I end up racking my chips up, heading to the cage, booking the loss for the night. All right, we're back in the car here for the outro because it's a crazy Saturday night and I'm tilted. I just had the biggest losing session of my life, guys. The biggest losing session of 3 years of poker. I lost $6,000. So I came in here with a lot of money and I left with $6,000 less tonight. It hurts pretty bad. It's just like, what the hell just happened to me, honestly? I don't even know. Like, it's crazy, but I was in the game for $9,000, which is just crazy at a 5-10. Cashing out for $3,000 and change, so lost about $6,000. Just ran so bad the entire night, honestly. From the very beginning, just running bad, losing hands, couldn't get anything going, getting cooler there, and then losing that massive pot, king 10 versus a set. I turned top 2 pair versus an action player who loves to bet, loves to bluff, will play a worse 2 pair just like that. We'll play aces that are even ace king like that. So I don't know. I mean, this is what's going to happen when I play this game. I said this last vlog that I'm going to be losing. I got to be ready for it. I can't tilt, can't play bad. And honestly, I think I played okay tonight. I don't think I got too out of line. Tried to play good pre-flop. I didn't tilt off or punt off my money. Made some pretty big folds. I'm just not happy with how I played the King 10 hand. I think I could have lost a lot less, but I don't know. Against that player type, it's tough, but the crazy thing is, though, is that I had my biggest winning session just like a week and a half ago, and I showed that on the vlog. And then now I'm having my biggest losing session. So, like I said, I'm trying to be honest here, trying to show you guys the ups and the downs of being a professional poker player, and this is one of them. You're in your car, it's 4 a.m., you just lost $6,000, you got to go home, you got to try to sleep, then you got to wake up and come back and do it again, because you can't just quit, you can't just stop, you got to make money. You got to see the cards. You got to get back at it. So I'm showing it all, guys. Ups and downs. It's rough. It's tough. This was a rough session, honestly. This was a tough one, but got to be ready for this, and hopefully come back tomorrow and do better. So, all right. If you guys like this video, hit that like button, subscribe, comment down below. Helps out the channel grow a lot. I'll see you guys in Dallas, but right now, I'm going to go home. Try to detilt a little bit, get some sleep. I'll be back tomorrow. Till next time, guys. I'll see you.